Welcome to Breaking Barriers. We want to help you continue to learn and grow. So after listening to today's inspiring guest, head on over to womenleadershipnation.com and sign up for our mailing list. You will receive exclusive content, updates, and new podcast episodes delivered right to your inbox. Our guest today is an extremely passionate woman who shows us what it takes to live and lead with purpose, laughter, and strength. She shares her journey from refugee to retail sales associate to one of the most successful entrepreneurs in Canada. This forward-thinking, pioneering woman pushes the envelope and follows her passions. She's the co-founder of Skillit, a marketplace for sharing knowledge and building skills. She's consulted with thousands of leading institutions on leading change, navigating disruption, corporate social responsibility, brand transformation, and so much more. We are thrilled to have the award-winning Zahra Al-harazi on the show with us today. You do not want to miss this brilliant woman's recommendations for success. And now introducing your host, co-founder and president of Women Leadership Nation, Jennifer Ladison.
So thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So I've spent the last couple of weeks staying up till 2 a.m. as I can get my quiet time from midnight till 2 a.m. reading your book. It's incredible.
Thank you.
And so we're gonna start the podcast off though with the same question that we ask everybody. When you were younger, what did you want to be?
Oh, wow. I had no idea. I just, I grew up in a very different society. I grew up in the Middle East, and girls weren't allowed to, there was no gym class. There was no dreams to be had for women other than getting married and having kids and being a good mother and a good wife and keeping the honor of your family, not doing anything bad like showing an ankle because, that dishonors everybody. And so there weren't any dreams. I wanted to go away to university. And that was my big thing was I wanted to go to university, but the path to seeing how that is even going to happen, I don't think was ever anything I really believed in.
Mm-hmm. And so, you're in that type of environment. What really drove you then? Because I'm sure that when you're surrounded with all of that, it's deep into the culture. Maybe your friends are also following it. What gave you that spark to kind of be defiant and be like, no, this is not for me?
It was a number of things. One was my family. My family were very unique to the culture in Yemen, especially my mother. My mother's from India. She wasn't even from Yemen. And we left, came to Yemen as refugees when I was 2. And my mother was new to the country and new to the culture. And she had lived a very sheltered life in India, a very privileged life. And all of a sudden, we landed in Yemen with pennies in our pocket. And she worked really hard to fit in, but she also worked hard to make sure I kind of had an opportunity to see what else is out there. And the thing was, it was always you can see, but you can't touch. Like you can see this world, but you're not a part of it. You can't be that person. But I got to travel, unlike a lot of my friends. My cousins lived in England, and I got to see how the freedom that they had and the life they had, and there was always this question: is like, why can't I touch that, and why can't that be my life? And so it became very frustrating, and that's what started the questioning really for me.
Right. And yeah, all throughout the book, you talk about how you really tried to push the envelope and that you were seen as that defiant child, but yet in many ways I kept thinking, yeah, but that's such a strength that you're clearly seeing, that ability to just push and achieve something. So you maybe tell us a little bit about the journey that you take people on in your book. So you did make it to the US and then you eventually came to Canada. Sort of what was your journey from a perspective of your career and your life?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because for me, it, I didn't see it as pushing. I didn't see it as being resilient. I didn't see it as, wanting something more. I always had this frustration of, what I wanted to do and what I couldn't do. And I've had that multiple times throughout my life is like, why can't I do that? Why can't I be that person? Like, why are you stopping me? Right. And I think so most people saw that as me being a troublemaker, and I got into a lot of trouble growing up, and for me it was just like, just let me be. Right. Let me do what I want to do. Yeah. And nobody wanted to do that. And it was like, that was my frustration is I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm asking you to just leave me alone. Just let me do what I want to do. Right. And I think that ended up being very much of a driving force for me is that this sense of freedom. It's like, just give me the freedom to let me try it, let me fail, let me experience things, let me taste them, let me see them, let me touch them, let me just do what I want to do. And so I see that in my daughters right now. And I'm like, you are so stubborn. You are such a brat. And then I'm like, no, you are wonderful. Just do what you want to do.
Yeah, your mindset shifts, right? Because you see that quality of like, it's a freedom and it's almost like a desire, a strong desire to be yourself and explore what you can become, right? And so how do you nurture that in your children now when you see that?
And it's hard, in their early years, and I'm probably going off on a different topic now, but in their early years, I was that strict mom. And it was like, and I had to actually like physically sit down with myself and try and understand what I'm doing to affect their future and their lives and not letting them fail and trying, you want to take your kids and put them in this protective little bubble and fix everything. And you can't do that. Yeah. But back to your question about, which I don't even remember what it is now, but it's, the journey.
The journey, yeah.
So we left Yemen after initially I got married at 17. We went to the U.S. because my husband at the time was studying there. And so we lived in the U.S. for a few years, and it was very fascinating for me because, now all of a sudden I have a little bit of that freedom that I've been craving so much. But then I had my oldest daughter when I was 19. I had my other daughter when I was 20. I had a big red minor stamped across my driver's license because I had 2 kids and I still wasn't 21 yet. And it makes me laugh all the time because it's like, you don't, at 21, you're not old enough to drink. And yet you can have children and be expected to raise them properly and, do all the right things.
Well, I have the same experience. I was 18 when I got married and had a baby, and we were getting married and I wasn't allowed to actually purchase the wine for the wedding. But it's tough, right?
It is because, raising children is like whatever you do in those early years affects them for their entire life. And, you have to take a test to get a driver's license, but you don't have to take a test to be a parent. There's always times I always say that I don't have any regrets except things I could have done better with my kids.
Right.
But anyway, so we came to Canada. I was, how old was I? I was 26 at the time. I had 3 kids. We left Yemen because of the civil war. And my son was born right after the war, and we just had enough. And we were like, we need a better life for our kids. And so I came to Canada, not having a dream for myself, not having a thought for a future. It was about the kids. It was about healthcare. It was about education. And we came here, and for the first year I was trying to figure things out, like, how do I dress the kids so that they fit in? How do, as a family, how do I do the right things and say the right things? How do we become a part of this society? And it was a big struggle because, my husband got a job and he was working. I didn't have any credentials to help me get a job. The kids became Canadian like this,
they adjust quickly.
really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was feeling like I wasn't a part of this. And so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I never thought I was good at anything because in the culture that I grew up in, girls are told that the things that you are told is be good. Right? Be good. That is the big thing. You have to be good. But good at being a wife, being a mother, preserving your family's integrity and honor and reputation and being a good person, and not anything beyond that, not anything beyond the four walls of the world that you live in. And so trying to venture outside of that was a desire. But it wasn't a desire that I had any confidence in. It wasn't a desire that I actually thought I had any ability to do that. Like, how would I fit into this society? Who was going to hire me when I didn't have any credentials? I didn't have any work experience. And so I started at the mall. And I
love that story in your book. I love it. I was like, oh my gosh, you literally was, you were in a position where I think a lot of women find themselves, where sometimes it's like, something has to change, but you have no idea where to start or what to do. And you had this challenge that you weren't sure, how to get a job, and that you literally went out and you came home with one.
I literally went to the mall and I came home with a job at Danier Leather. But it's scary because as women, I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any time that we take for ourselves takes time away from our children and our house and our family. And, and I grew up eating fresh, healthy food and never anything that came out of a box, for example. The very first time my son had craft dinner was when he was 11, and he went to the neighbor's house and he came home and he's like, I had the best dinner tonight. And I'm like, what did you have? And he's like, Katie. And I'm like, what's that? And he's like, craft dinner. And I'm just like, seriously, like I break my back cooking these healthy
and he loves craft dinner,
fresh vegetables. And you love craft dinner. But that's kind of the pressure that we put on ourselves. We need to do the right things all the time. And those right things somehow don't involve ourselves.
Right.
And so
I definitely agree with you. And I think it's a struggle that everybody can find themselves in, especially when they're balancing work and home life and that guilt. I mean, that's partly why I read your book in the middle of the night, because I'm so busy working during the day. And then, to sit outside and read while I could be spending time with the kids. Instead, I chose when they're asleep. I do it at midnight till 2. Yeah. But that pressure where, so then you get this job at Danier Leather. And what's incredible is the ability to really create some amazing skills for yourself that you use later on. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that connection.
So the skills that I learned, were just basic things. Like I'd never worked before. I didn't know how to work a till. I didn't know how to talk to a customer. I just didn't, there was so many things that I just had no idea how to do. And so there was all of those skills, but then there was also these soft skills that, that I'm learning is such a big skills gap nowadays. But, leadership, teammanship, how to work with other people, how to have empathy, how to sell something to someone, and learning about people. They're so different, and like when I go shopping, for example, I really don't want a salesperson to talk to me until I have a question for them.
Right.
And I'm pretty focused. I like to look and kind of figure things out. There's other people that need compliments.
Right.
And there's other people that just need help figuring it out. It's like, I don't know what I want. and they need you to put an outfit together for them. So everybody is different. And I learned all these little things about, how people react. Like how do I make a sale? Because we worked on commission.
Right.
And so those were little things that I didn't even realize that I was learning. How do you sell something to someone? What does that person in front of you need from you right now? And that became a driving force in my life. What does the person in front of me need from me? I remember one time I was doing this panel with some young people, and there was four of us on the panel, plus me. And I knew them, so this was okay. But, everybody went through and they were giving these kids tips on how to network, and like figure out the guest list before you go to an event, find out who you want to talk to, learn some stuff about them and go talk to them and all of those things, and kind of went down the panel, and it got to me, and I'm like, forget everything that they said to you, because that's not what you need to do. Yes, you need to know all that information, but when you are at an event, you are talking to the person directly in front of you. What can you do for them? Like, that's what you should always bring it to a conversation. What connection can you make? What help can you give them? What piece of information can you give them that's going to make a difference? Like, how are you going to make a difference? Because that's what's going to make you stand out.
Right.
In their lives and get you to the goals that you want. And so I kind of unconsciously learned how to do that. And so figured that out, got to the next stage, got to Danier Leather, made more sales than anybody in Alberta at the time when I was working part-time. And then I really decided to go back to school because I wanted more than just a job in at the mall. But again, growing up in Yemen, you have all these self-doubts and, can I actually do that? Is that even in my wheelhouse? Am I going to be good at it? And so the one thing I thought that I was good at was drawing. Wasn't really true. But, my mom's an amazing artist. She does these gorgeous, gorgeous paintings. And I thought, well, maybe that's something I can do. And that wasn't her career. That was her hobby. But I thought, she used to sell these paintings in bazaars and raise money. Her and her friends bought the first dialysis machine in Yemen. They raised money for the women's prison. They funded the school for the blind. They did all these things, and she did a lot of that on her creative skills. She wrote a cookbook and sold that all for charity. And so I'm like, okay, well, I can be creative.
Right.
And so that's why I went to art school.
No, I think it's amazing because, when people think of what they should be doing next, it's amazing to think, you can think beyond what the traditional ideas are. And you went into art school without really understanding what the end result will be or career-wise, but it just evolved for you because you were following your passion. Would you agree with that? You have to really follow something that you are passionate about and aligns with your values and what you want to achieve?
Yes. And no.
Okay.
I think both things at the same time, because sometimes, I feel like we sometimes do our kids a disservice when we tell them just follow your passion, because they don't realize the hard work and the steps that they need to take in order to live that ultimate life that they want, right? And following your passion doesn't always get you to the ultimate goal, which is financial security to do the things that you want to do, and the ability to pick and choose those things that you enjoy and not do the things that you can't. And, it takes a lot of work and effort to get to that stage. So for me, for example, now with Skillit, with my new company, there's pieces of the business that I'm really good at, and that's all I want to do. And I don't want to do HR because I don't like managing people and I'm not good at it. I don't necessarily want to do the financial parts because it doesn't interest me or feed my soul. Yeah. But I've worked to get to that point.
Exactly. The hard work has to get it to really be in there. And I completely relate because my daughter, she wants to be an actress. And, That's a hard road. And I said, you need to study first in certain areas, maybe go into film and television and work behind camera, do certain things as well so that you have that balance. So, you mentioned
Well,
Skillit.
and you learn all those things and you learn how they're done, right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Exactly. So maybe we jump right into that though. So you've started this new company. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what it is, but also what initiated it. What made you
Yeah.
see that there's a need?
So what initiated it takes me back to, art school and kind of building that and realizing that there was a part of art school that I really enjoyed, and that was graphic design. And to be honest, at the time, it also was the only one that actually gave you a 9-to-5 job, because everything else in art school is based on your talent and your ability to sell a piece of art that you made. Whereas graphic design actually was a hireable job.
Right.
And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed creating brands, and I enjoyed the psychology behind, why you get people to buy the things that you want them to buy, and why you get them to eat at the restaurant that you want them to eat at, and all of those things. And so that kind of led to my first company, which was a ad agency.
Mm-hmm.
And so I built this ad agency and kind of realized that it wasn't, I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed the psychology behind it, the strategy behind building a brand, not actually the actual creative work, but more the thought process that led to that. But it also was a means to an end. I needed financial security in my life, and I needed to build something that I could. And this was a direct path, and it was an easy way because I had the ability to start my own company, get my clients, and build that in a much faster way. And so that became the drive and the passion behind that. But as soon as I got that security, as soon as I built that company and it was successful, we were one of the most international award-winning agency in Canada. And as soon as that happened, I kind of backtracked a little bit and thought about that passion that you were talking about. What is it that I'm interested in doing? What is it that is about this business that I'm running right now that is causing me an immense amount of dissatisfaction?
Right.
And what can I do to change that? And I realized a few things. I wasn't excited about the work that I was doing. It didn't feed this part of me that I really wanted to grow. And that was helping people. It was back to the strategy of solving a problem. Mm-hmm. And for me, solving a problem was a big part of the passion. And it was, how do I make people's lives better? How do I enhance and do something that has a lasting impact on them, right? Not just I sold a product to you, but what did I do for you that you now can take for the rest of your life? And so that kind of started this germ of an idea of experiences. So after, during that period of time, I was going on multitude of adventures. Right. I had joined an international board, and we had our board meetings a few times a year in different countries. So everywhere from Singapore to London to Malaysia to, and so that was really exciting. I was doing a lot of international speaking, up to 20 countries, and traveling to these, I was part of entrepreneurs organizations, so traveling to these universities and stuff. And there was a lot of, after my divorce, there was a lot of firsts. Right. I wanted to learn how to ride a motorcycle. I jumped out of a plane. I started doing all these things.
You just went for it.
I just went for it. And a lot of them, like skydiving, was not a pleasant experience and not to be repeated. But there was a lot of great things, and I started thinking about all these experiences that people can have and that they don't because they're too busy, they're too afraid, they're too whatever. And so the initial thought was to build an experiences company. So instead of giving somebody a gift, you give them an experience.
Right.
And that was the initial thing. And then I partnered up with Zahra Al-harazi, who is my co-founder of Skillit. And initially she is this young, bright, talented, go-getter that it's like I'm constantly doing this with her.
That's exciting though, right? Because it brings that energy, and then, you both have different perspectives to create something completely
100%. I absolutely love having her as a partner. But initially I hired her to help me build an investor deck.
Right.
Because I had this idea for this company. I needed money. I had no idea how a seed stage investment or a series A or, like the tech side of the business. And Sarah had all of that. And so we started building this investor deck. And as we were building it, I was consulting at RBC. Sarah's consulting at Google. She still is, because as we're building a startup, we still need sources of income to feed the business. So Sarah is a consultant at Google. She helped build a startup, Google Startup Canada. She helped build the cloud in at Google, and so as we're and at RBC, I was working on their youth strategy. Right. Which is a $750 million CSR project that they wanted to help young people improve their lives. And so I did a ton of research into the skills gap and, what people need to improve their lives, and the difference between hard skills and soft skills, and how all these kids are coming out of university and they don't have the soft skills that they need in order to get to the next stage that, they need in their lives and the company needs from them. And so as she's doing her work, I'm doing her work, this idea started to develop about skills. And so instead of just having an experience, you can have an experience and learn how to do something at the same time. And we found that the dropout rate for online learning is 98%. Even if you've paid for a course.
Really?
Even if you've paid for a course, the dropout rate is huge because people get bored. They hit a wall and they can't figure out that one thing and they have nobody to ask a question of. Right. And it's kind of lonely and boring to sit behind your computer by yourself and try and learn something as opposed to being interactive. And so Skillit became this live in person. LinkedIn Learning is only doing 2-minute videos now because that's the max attention span.
Yeah, the attention span is crazy. I can see that even with the younger generation.
And so we really wanted to help improve skills, but do it in a way that is interactive and fun and involves an experience. So we're like, what if we can build these experiences where you learn a skill? You can go to a restaurant and learn how to bartend.
Right.
But you can learn it with the person there. You can bring your girlfriends, whatever, to make it more interactive, more fun, and you walk away with a skill. I've always wanted an herb garden. Right. But I have no idea where to begin. What kind of soil, what plants like the sun, what plants don't like the sun, what are the different times of year that you should plant, and and I'm like, it's so much work to try and figure this out on my own, right?
It is. But if some pieces of information, right? Like you're going to go online and find a part that you need, or honestly, do you have the time to buy a book and read through the whole thing? Typically people don't.
Exactly. Right? But if somebody can come to my house
yes.
and help me plant this herb garden and leave me with all that information, and when they go away, I have an herb garden that has been started and I know how to manage it. Like, how amazing would that be?
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing like that out. There's nothing like that available. You have to go and search for that person and that skill. There's no one central spot.
Right.
And so that really excited us. And what are the different skills? Like, for example, you're going sailing with your friends for the first time, and you don't want to look like an idiot who doesn't know how to tie knots. Right? Yes. So what if somebody can just come and teach you all of that before you leave? Or Mayo and I were going to an event one time, and it was a black tie. And so we went online trying to figure out how to tie this bow tie. And there's this one stupid little fold under. And I just could not figure it out. We ended up going to the event with the bow tie in his pocket.
Yeah.
Right. Hoping that somebody will tie this for him. But, what if somebody can come and just teach me how to do that? And then now I know it and I have that skill and I've had an experience. while doing it. If I want to learn how to do my taxes, if I want to learn how to balance my books, like, if I want to learn how to save money, like it's a lot of work. I made my kids, when they turned 16, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Right.
which gave them some ideas. But then there's so many other things, like, how do I set up a bank account? How do I do my end of life? I've spent the last year kind of figuring this out. And a friend of mine, Julia Johnson, and I are actually talking about writing a book about, how do you organize your life? Like, how do I do a closet edit? How do I do a pantry edit? How do I get all my passwords, in a safe, secure place where I can easily find them? And all of this stuff that takes away all, I'm talking about my other business idea
but
now.
It makes
but,
sense. It makes sense because there's so many things like I think about, and I think, that right now I'm doing, like you say, the passwords, the organizing all of the accounts, everything, just real life things that you're not taught. And some
takes
people
up so much of your time and adds so much stress to your life. Like, do you know how stressful, how stressful it is to have all these things that you haven't done, that you haven't sorted, that you haven't figured out, that just take away from your day, where you can just do what you need to do. Like, get all that stuff organized, out of the way, and done.
You have a system, you create a system, and you're okay. And that's just one example, but
exactly.
I think that's amazing.
So that's the premise of Skillit. I want to run a 5K, like, and I can go out and find a coach, but what if I find a coach in this one place where everything I want to learn how to do is? So that was the premise of Skillit. And Sarah and I decided, so the idea of the experiences changed to this, and we kind of got to this great idea, and then decided that this was both of our ideas, not mine. And she needs to stop being an employee who's building this deck and be a partner.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so we started working on this together, and it's been really interesting. My first partnerships with my first company didn't go so well. And it was also because there was a lot I didn't know, and there was a lot about us that was so different that was unbridgeable. And there was a lot about us that was good. So I'm never going to deny that my first partners really helped me learn a lot about business and everything that we needed to do. But there was also these differences that we just were not going to get past. And so Sarah and I had to work really, really hard on our relationship, along with our partnership, along with our business. And initially we were butting heads a lot, because she's this young millennial that has an idea of how she wants to do things. And I'm an older, person with different ideas of how to do things. And that was causing some clashes, and we really had to work through it. I had to adjust myself, and I had to learn how to use Slack. And, do all the technology things.
Because it's kind of pushing you in other directions, right?
Absolutely. And relax on, an 8:00 start to our day. Yeah. And she had to learn how to do things differently as well. And, so that was really good. We both learned skills from each other. But so we came up with this idea. We decided to build this company. And then we started working on it. And then just as we were ready to launch, COVID hit. And, thank God we did not launch the company before COVID hit, because we would have been at an absolute standstill, but we hadn't yet. And as soon as COVID hit, we were like, okay, we need to pivot. But we don't want to pivot to videos, because that's the whole premise of our business. That's the whole idea about not building it,
having that engagement. Like, I think people are, especially now that they've been locked up in their homes for so long, they're craving that, and they're struggling, because I think part of the value is you're going to teach skills that really are not traditionally taught in universities or schools. You're going to, these life skills, you're going to spark energy and excitement and passion in people that maybe are in a rut and need to explore, and it's going to make them more innovative and creative. But I also feel like you're creating this sense of community. So for those that maybe don't have
Absolutely.
family, and so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So one of the ideas, actually, I love that you said that, because one of the early ideas is I had read this article, and it was about this woman. I think she was in Ireland, and she had a job, corporate job, and successful at it, and she absolutely hated it. Just was not fulfilled at all. And so she just quit her job. She went to Japan because her grandfather was Japanese, so she was half Japanese, half Irish, and went to Japan and hung out with her grandparents for a while. Well, her grandfather was a Japanese knife maker and made these really incredible knives, and she learned the skill from him. And then she went back to Ireland and started creating her own handles to go with these beautiful knives, and created this entire business, and has started selling these knives for lots and lots of money. But she had a Japanese grandfather who was a knife maker. Like, how many people have that? Right?
That's incredible.
Exactly. And so, that's where the idea came from. It's like there are Japanese knife makers out there that would love to teach this skill to other people. And how can we connect them? How can we build this community? If I want to learn how to make pierogies, how much fun would it be to go to a Polish grandmother's house and learn how to make pierogies from her?
Right.
And have a meal. And now my mom is so excited about this. She's going to teach
she's like signing up.
Oh, absolutely. She makes this amazing lamb curry, a white lamb curry made with like crushed cashews and stuff like that. And so she's going to teach that. And she's like, I get to make a little bit of money. I get to feed people. I get to have an evening of entertainment.
That's amazing, because that's the other side that we haven't talked about too much, but the idea that there's people that have skills that want to share. Yeah. And also, especially even with COVID going on, financially, some people need a little extra side income. And
100%. That's the gig economy that we're also tapping into. You are picking up all pieces of our business without me even talking about them. You get it. That's awesome. I love that. But absolutely. By I think it's 2030, 80% of all jobs are going to be freelance, right? And so it's absolutely the need for this side income. 20 years ago, you could make minimum wage and still eventually be able to buy a house. Right. Now you make minimum wage and you'll never be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment for rent. Right. So it's a very, very different world, and people need these additional side pieces of income. They need to be able to feed into their passion. So I'm passionate about making cabinets, but I have to work as an accountant. So, here's something that I can tap into on the side and make some money and things like that. And, I had in my first house, I had this white concrete countertop that I absolutely loved, and I'd never seen anywhere before. And it had this high gloss resin on, and I'm like, I would love to learn how to make that, not because I want it to be a business. I just want to learn how to do it. Or maybe I do want it to become a business.
Yeah. You never know. Right. Yeah.
We have these construction guys that just built another cabin for us. So our property here in Montana used to be a guest ranch, and we kind of shut down the guest ranch part and just use it for friends and family now. But they just built this other cabin for us, and we wanted to make these concrete sidewalks, stamped concrete sidewalks, and that kind of are etched to look like stone. And the guys that did the first sidewalks for us live 3.5 hours away. And so these guys said, we really want to learn how to do it. Maybe Jake can come and show us. So Jake wasn't available to come and show them, but he talked them through it.
That's incredible. So now they have a whole other...
They have this skill, and they're excited because, Savino works here in the summer, and then he goes back to Vegas in the winter. He's like, people who do this make a lot of money in Vegas, and I now can do this. Wow. Right. And the guys here have added it to their website. They can do stamped concrete sidewalks.
So so you haven't officially launched yet, but if you have a skill or you want to sign up, can people still go to the website and sign up?
So we did officially launch a couple of weeks ago, because what we had to do with COVID is we had to figure out a way where we could do this virtually. without doing videos. And so we built, Google is absolutely fantastic. We build Google Meet right into our website.
Right.
So, it's not like you buy a skill from someone and then you have to go to Zoom and do it.
That's great.
It's right in our website.
Yeah.
And we can have these virtual classrooms. So you can do your Skillit either virtually or you can do it in person. If I'm teaching a Skillit, for example, my sister-in-law, Laura, owns a company called Notes to Self, and she learned how to do her own Facebook ads. And so she was visiting here in Montana, and she did a Skillit for Sarah and me, teaching us what she knows about building your own Facebook ads. Sarah was in Toronto, so she was a virtual Skillit. I was in person, so I was here, and she did this session with us, and it was
great. That's really good.
You can split it. You can go and learn from someone, or you can do it virtually. You can have a split class, but the point is it's interactive. I can ask a question. I can interact with someone, because all of us crave this human connection.
Especially right now. Like, I do believe that it's really good that you've launched, because, people are stuck in a different routine and, feeling that need for connection. And why not? If you can't go out and do something, why not learn something new?
There's a lot of people that are doing it for free on Instagram. People who were personal trainers who worked at a gym that's now shut down. They're like, I'm going to do free classes every morning and I'm like, why? Why would you not learn an income from a skill and a career that you have and actually teach it to someone? But they don't have the portal and the access to do that. So that's what we do, and there's been so many things that I've tasked myself to learn through COVID. Like, I wanted to learn about nutrition. Mm-hmm. What can I eat that's good for me? How many calories a day do I need if I'm working out, if I'm not working out? Like, how can I maintain weight? How can I lose weight? And Emma Tilson taught me how to do all of those things. And, and it was fantastic, because I talked to her once a week. She walked me through it. She told me what calories I was allowed to eat this week and gave me the macro breakdowns, right? And now, after working with her for a period of time and hiring her to teach me this skill, I now know how to do it myself.
That's great.
Right?
That's really good. And you're providing, I think one of the other advantages is that you're providing a safe space to go to as well. So, you could go on YouTube to search for something, but you don't necessarily know the individual. You don't know what the quality. And so you're really providing somebody like a one place that you can go, that you have that assurity. It's amazing.
Yeah. So that's what's exciting about Skillit for me. And I feel like, we're going to make a difference in people's lives. My favorite part of Skillit, which actually is turning into another business that we thought would be years down the line. So there are so many young people out there that don't have access. They can't afford to go to school or get a Skillit. They're already working 2 jobs trying to make ends meet. And we really wanted to find a way to help them build their hard skills and their soft skills, because they don't have leadership in their life. They don't have mentorship in their life. They don't have teammanship in their life to teach them how it's done. And you don't learn that from a computer. You just do not learn that from a course. You learn that by interacting with people, by doing things, by failing, by succeeding, by doing that. It's the only way. And so all these young people don't have access. So it's free to sign up to sell a Skillit on our website. However, there is a small cost. And that cost is for every 10 Skillits that you sell, you have to donate one.
I love it. I think that's going to give people a sense of, you're just going to feel good when you do something like that.
Absolutely. If you're teaching a class of 10 people, if you have a young person in the classroom that never would have access to this, how good does that feel for you, for everybody else that's in the class? You have this opportunity to mentor. So one free Skillit for every 10 that you sell. And we're putting together this group that we're working on. This is not launched yet, but young people that can sign up for free Skillits. And, all they have to do is fill out a form. But what's great about that is we can categorize that. Mm-hmm. And in talking to some corporations, this is the second part of the business idea. In talking to some corporations about Skillit Forward, what's interesting is they're like, we have the CSR program. Our young people, which, 75% of the workforce in a year or two are going to all be millennials. They don't want to give money to the United Way or other corporation, other charities. They don't have money to give. Right. They actually want to do something. They want to experience it. They want to have direct impact. They want to know where their effort and their money is going. They have these ideas about how to change the world. They're interested in climate change, or they're interested in this or this. And they also want to build their own soft skills, of empathy and leadership and all of those things. And so they're like, we will give you people to donate skills. We'll just feed that part of the program. And we're like, that's amazing. Yeah. Because, you feed into a corporation CSR program, you feed into their employee engagement, their employee retention, you feed into their own employee training. Yeah. And now they can donate skills. And, and what's really great about it is it's direct, measurable impact.
I was actually thinking about that because a lot of times companies they'll set a whole day up. There's so much infrastructure required to go and maybe build a playground, for example, to get engagement. Whereas you could actually inspire and engage your employees by tapping into their skills that are completely unique, being able to promote that, have them give back. It
can be work related or not passion related, right?
Absolutely. And I think that builds their corporate culture, that builds and people feel like a sense of accomplishment. And then, but they don't have to worry about the infrastructure. You have that handled.
We have it handled. That's amazing. We can set it up. And, if, for example, there is a BLM movement now. If you can say, what, we want to donate for the next 6 months, we want to donate all of our skills to young kids in that community. Or it's Pride Month, we want to donate all of our skills to LGBTQ young people. Or it's immigrants that we're interested in, or it's women that we're interested in, so we can target and help them create differences in targeted communities.
I already have some I'll introduce you to, because awesome. I think that it would be perfect. I think for even the innate skills that the company offers, they have that, but then also, like you said, that uniqueness. And then what that does as well is, imagine it promotes diversity and inclusion by 100%. Leveraging everybody's different experiences, which they're kind of stuck with. How do we do that? At a mass level, and also engage with the community. So, I love it. I think that's so incredible.
And so that's the exciting. So for me, remember earlier in the conversation, we talked about that passion. Yes. This is my passion. This is all I want to do. Right. And so Sarah's going to run the company. Yep. I'm just going to run the Skillit Forward program. Right. Because I feel like I've got to a place in my life where I've earned the ability to work on what I love and what I'm passionate about. But you have to do the work. And I need to emphasize this for young people, is you have to do the work to get there. You can't just decide I want to do this one thing and work in it right off the bat, because it just doesn't help you in the long term. And I'll use my daughters as an example. My oldest daughter is a petroleum engineer. But she has this passion about giving energy to undeveloped countries. Right. And so she went and did her master's in sustainable global energy management, and she works for the International Energy Agency in Paris right now. And so that's her passion. My other daughter has been a social worker since she was 5. Right. That's been her passion. Her first school created an award for helping younger kids just so that they could give it to her.
Give it to her. Wow. That's
right. That's always been her passion. So she worked with homeless youth, and as in Calgary with a couple of different organizations. But she realized that the impact that she wants to make is not going to be in the field office. She wants to make a bigger impact. So she went to London, did her master's at the London School of Economics. And now she's working on the bigger impact, policy change and advocacy and stuff like that. But in order to get to there, she had to work as a youth counselor for 5 years.
Yeah, you have to understand the basics of
Be a frontline worker.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah, be a frontline worker. Talk to these kids. Understand what their challenges are, what their psychology is, what their issues are. You can't just go straight to policy and advocacy, or and claim to understand what's happening. So there's steps that you have to take along the way. There's money that you have to make along the way, right? You can follow your passion, but if your passion is weaving, it might not make you money that is going to allow you to live when you're 65, and so there's these things, and I think kids need to make plans. This is my ultimate goal. This is what I want my life to look like. Here's all the skills I'm going to need along the way to get there.
I think they need to read your book. And I don't say that because I love reading and I read lots and lots of books. This is incredible. What you've achieved is an incredibly engaging story that people can relate to, as well as very practical strategies and in terms of what it takes. And I think that everybody, but especially the millennials, they need to understand, that you're not going to become an overnight success, and it's not going to be instant, and that you do need to work for it, but that to actually revel in that journey, even when you're at the beginning stages, and try and take it all in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I have always been about the journey, always. Like I just, it's always been about what are we doing now? What excitement is happening right now? How are we building this? Even with Skillit, it's never been about the ultimate, how much money are we going to make and how much are we going to sell this company for? That's part of the equation, right? The thinking, but we have such an amazing team. And, people like Jonathan Youngworth, I went to art school with John, and he is such an amazing, talented designer. And I tapped into him early on and said, John, I want you to design this. And John started designing it for money. And then he's like, screw this. I want to be a part of this company.
Wow. That's
Nick Asik is a copywriter, and he's a brilliant copywriter. And I tapped into him and I'm like, okay, how much are you going to charge us to help us do all of this? And he's like, you know what? I have a job that pays me really well. And I don't need the money right now, but this is really exciting. I want to be a part of it. So Tara Wood has been with us from the beginning. She's been doing all of our social media. Steph Stucco used to be chief of staff for Mayo when he was CEO of Hydro One, and she's now our CFO. Sherry Austin at RBC was head of corporate citizenship for all of RBC. She's now our advisor and helping me with the Skillit Forward program. Like, we've built this incredibly talented group of people that I pinch myself every day going, oh my God, Noor, she's actually a member of my ex-husband's family, and she is so bright and so talented and so amazing. And she's joined the team, and she begged me for a few months. She's like, just give me a volunteer position. I just want to just give me a volunteer position. And now she's actually, a member of the team. That's the journey. You have to fail in order to succeed. You have to be comfortable with failing. It's building a business is not a strategy on a piece of paper. It's, you can build a strategy and goalposts, but it's only when you implement it that it becomes a reality. And when you implement it, you are going to fail. You're going to find out that your initial assumptions, and we found this out. That's why building Skillit took 3 years. Your initial assumptions were all wrong. Right? This is not what the audience needs from you. This is what they need from you. And this is how you're going to get there. So it's the journey. It's so much fun to build something.
And not letting that, when you do fail, or it's more of you're failing forward, that you're recognizing, actually, it's not that I failed. I actually learned which direction not to waste my time in.
100%. You become stronger. You become more resilient. You become smarter. You become more capable. Like, all of those problems, that happen in your life are actually good things. because without them, like when I think about, leaving the war in Yemen, coming to Canada, having to go back to school as an adult, like all of those things that happened in my life, I can look at them, from a victim's lens and say all of these things happened to me, and like it was a terrible things that happened to me. But I don't look at it like that, because if all of those things had not happened, I would not be the person that I am today.
Yeah, I believe
right.
so much.
And so all of those things. So that's why in my book I have what it takes. It takes, things like shame, for example. We look at shame as a bad thing. I don't necessarily look at it as a bad thing, because for a big part of my life, it kind of kept me in check.
Right.
When you're ashamed to do something, it's probably not
it's probably a sign that
for you to do. Right. And so there's all these different things that you just have to go with it. You just have to go with it. You have to experiment. You have to be okay with failing. You have to be okay with wearing different hats, doing things that you don't love to do. You have to be okay. I've had to learn. I'm very direct. It's almost a fault of mine, because not everybody takes it the way you intend. Like, in my mind, I'm trying to solve a problem. I'm not as worried about your feelings or my feelings as I am to try and solve this problem. And a lot of people are more concerned with saying the right thing and not offending you and all of that. And then you don't actually get to solving the problem.
Right.
Right. And so, it's
that
just,
all comes with self-awareness. And it feels like, having read your book, that you've really, every step of your journey, you've learned more about yourself. And
I will for the rest of my life.
And I love that, you're at this stage now, and I see so many incredible things with Skillit. So I wish you so much luck.
Thank you.
I feel so grateful to have had the opportunity to interview you, because I feel like everybody needs to hear it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Women Leadership Nation's Breaking Barriers podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to subscribe and share the stories of inspiration and encouragement to women all around the world by forwarding it to a friend. We want to help you continue to learn and grow. Visit WLNacademy.com for additional resources, guides, training opportunities, and sign up to keep in touch so we can let you know the exciting things that are happening next. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, keep breaking barriers.